Thank you, everyone, for joining today. We're here today with Dana Zellers, uh, certified executive and leadership coach based in San Francisco Bay Area. Dana spent over 25 years in corporate environments and agencies, working with agent organizations like Uber, Twitter, and others as a program director and interactive executive producer before founding her coaching practice in 2016. What really stands out about Dana's approach is her core belief that more hours is the enemy of more impact, something she's built her entire practice around. And she's also been recognized as the most innovative one-on-one executive coach in California and works primarily with senior managers to VPs who are looking to move from reactive and overwhelmed to actually crushing it in the roles. So, Dana, welcome.
Thank you so much for having me, Anthony. I'm so excited for our chat today.
Awesome. Me too. Me too. So, I guess give us a little of a walkthrough about for those who aren't as familiar about like your role, your day to day, and how you impact those you work with.
Yeah, absolutely. As you mentioned, spent plenty of years working with amazing, talented, smart leaders in these busy, fast-paced organizations. And so the challenge that I and a lot of them have is that while they're really smart and talented about the skill that you're hired for, as we rise up in our career, there are other skills that we're not necessarily taught. There are ways that we're used to thinking about things. We're used to working harder, like we said, putting more time and more energy to get things done. And sometimes it's a tactic that we need, and sometimes it's a mindset shift. So I have the pleasure of working with those leaders, both one-on-one through coaching. So we do this, we get on a Zoom, we sit there and we talk and we figure out kind of what those long-term goals are, as well as some short-term wins that we can get to sort of figure out where they want to be going and the best way to get there, and if anything is in their way. In addition to working one-on-one with people, I also have a membership where I can work with people asynchronously. So you have something come up during the week, you have unlimited email access with me, and we can figure out what those issues are that are unfolding. The third way that I work with clients is I do team facilitation and training. So I love the deep work of one-on-one, but I also love getting in front of a group of a team and figuring out, do they not have the right strategy or priorities? Are they not working effectively with their time? Is there some workplace dynamics that's going on that's holding them back?
Mhm.
Or sometimes have people been moved into a leadership role and maybe they just need a little support in stepping into that slightly new role and expectation.
Absolutely. Well, so you definitely work with a lot of people across a lot of industries, but you're based in the Bay Area, which is a market full of high performers who,
Yeah.
often are burning out or hitting a ceiling. Does that environment shape who finds you or how you work with them?
Yeah, it does. I mean, I think part of it is my experience and background, and part of that was crafted based on living in the Bay Area. We obviously have a lot of fast-paced tech places here that I've experienced, and a lot of people still are. So I do get a lot of referrals from people that I personally have known or know somebody that I personally know. So a lot of those people who come from those spaces come to me. The other way that I sort of expand and reach other audiences is I do a good amount of speaking so that I can get in front of teams and start to plant some seeds of things that people can start to learn and practice. And then as we get to know each other, people can then see if maybe they want to take the next step with me.
I see. And I guess how does that usually develop that like next step in transitioning into like that actual change transformation?
Yeah, so usually what happens is, I have a couple conversations with somebody.
Mhm.
So they may know me outside that, or really, coaching is such a personal relationship. We're spending time together. And so I want to make sure, one, that I can help you, but I also want to make sure that I'm the person that is the best messenger, that the way that I work is the right format for you. There are a lot of people who are coaches out there, and to be honest, they work in a lot of different ways. So I
Hmm.
think it's really important to have that opportunity to have a conversation and really talk about like, how would we work together? Are you the kind of coach who's only going to ask me questions and looking for insights from me? Are you the kind of coach who's going to be more of a teacher or a mentor and teach me specific skills that you've either experienced or done yourself or learned somehow? In my practice, it's really a combination of those things. And so I want to make sure that people have clear expectations as to what that coaching journey could really look like so that we can start to kind of peel back the layers and again, have real success. I want this to be a relationship where people are able to dig deep and figure out what some of those changes are so that they can start to see some of the results in the work that we're doing on an ongoing basis.
I like that how you said that. You identify the different ways people work, and then you structure your way of coaching them to make sure that it's someone that could actually, get the most from that. Because that's one of the marks of a great teacher, making sure that you get the impact, right? So, do you ever find it difficult to like switch, like if you have multiple clients back to back?
Yeah, I think that it's one of the things that I love about coaching is that I can be so present in the conversations and really focused on the other person. It's kind of nice to be out of my own space for some of that time and really have
Mhm.
that perspective there. One of the things that I do make sure that I do is that I have some buffer time between clients. Because again, while these are not my issues and I am not carrying whatever it is they're going through, I care. And I am invested in a process to help people go to that whatever that next step is. And so sometimes that means we're talking about serious, heavy things. Sometimes we're talking about a lot of frustrations. We're certainly talking about joy and celebrations that we're able to do as well. And so I do find that it's important to have sort of a shift period. And in fact, it's one of the things that I suggest as a technique when people have a lot on their plate in general.
Mhm.
So having just a quick transition moment where we can be intentional, we can reflect on what we've just accomplished. We can talk about what we need to be emotionally present and what we want out of our next experience so that we can kind of set ourselves up for success.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's always good to come in fresh again and to have that shift.
Yeah, we don't always have the time, but sometimes even just crafting the smallest moment can really make a difference.
Hmm. Do you have an example of one of these shifts if you'd like to share with us or?
Yeah, I think that again, I mentioned that I also do some sort of team training and facilitation. And so, we have some kind of set pieces that I do there that pick from a lot of the themes that I'm doing in my one-on-one coaching. So the first thing that I really like to do is I like to do clarity work with people. So I have an example of I was working with a client who was a director level in their role. Their organization was going through a lot of reorg. They wanted to move up that next level, but with all of the reorganization was happening, they didn't have consistent leadership to work with. In tandem with that, they also were inheriting other team members who were maybe not seen as performing as well as they could. There was a lot going on with the transition in this company. So while we were looking at, again, tactically, what do you need to do? How do you need to formulate your day in order to manage all of these competing priorities? The clarity work about really understanding what the most important priorities are is the foundation for all of those decisions. So we talked about what was important to them. We talked about what was important to their organization. We talked about really what was important when they had a lot of those relationships so that they could really make some of those tough decisions about how they were spending their time.
I
And
see.
in this case, they were really successful. They, again, had some really open, great conversations with both the new members of their team and their new manager and other leaders in the organization so that they had some transparency and they were able to really communicate what was going on and what they were doing in that role. And we did a lot of really tactical things with calendar management. So, how do I craft the time to do thinking when everything is urgent and coming at me all the time, so that I can be seen as being strategic and also getting the right things done?
Absolutely. Clarity is so important, especially calendar management, because I've been in those shoes before where like everything's everything feels so urgent, and then you don't know what to juggle. And yeah, I'm sure it definitely helps on the progress removing that load for them. So speaking about clarity, you've developed something you call the career control framework, and that's built on clarity, effectiveness, and relationships.
Yeah.
So I guess can you walk us through what kind of helped create that framework? And was there some specific like clients or challenge that you saw in your career that made you realize that that's a structure that needed to be implemented?
Yeah, so I think it's one of the things that's really interesting. As we mentioned, I went to a coach training program. I got my certificate in coaching, and that was really a skill that I wanted to learn. That again is really something that's different than the way that we're managing things in a lot of our day to day. But what I realized when I started working with clients was there were a few themes that were coming up again and again. So again, clarity is a huge part of that. So if we're not working from steady foundations, if we don't have the right clarity, if we don't have the right mindset, if we're not physically taking care of ourselves, then we're really kind of at a burden. While people come to me with professional issues, really a lot of that is whole person. So we want to make sure not only we're dealing with this in a professional setting, but how is this impacting the life that you want to create? And how is work one part of that?
Mhm.
The other theme that kept coming up is, yeah, there are so many demands on our attention, and the way that society and technology has evolved, we are losing the ability to concentrate and to focus. So there really are some key strategies and techniques that I think people can adopt that start to be more effective with the use of our time. So through our clarity work, we know what's important to us. But so how do we figure out how to be effective with our time to making sure that we're really working on the right things? Um, and then the third piece is that relationships. So we're not doing any of this alone. We usually have a boss. We usually have other stakeholders that we're dealing with. If we aren't leading a team, we are working within a team and we have other people. And sometimes there's competing priorities. Sometimes there's things going on. And so while we all like to think that we're always in the best place to deal with relationships, there really are some skills that we can learn there and some mindset shifts that we can practice that will help us in those relationships so that instead of feeling like we are competing with other people, we are working in support of other people. This idea that we are better together and we really can accomplish more and kind of have a better time doing it.
Mhm.
So those were really the three theme areas that kept coming up again and again. And so I wanted to make sure that I made that an official process so we're checking all of those boxes. Again, if your relationship sector is in great shape, we're not necessarily going to spend a lot of time there, but we're going to make sure it is and figure out how you're able to support yourself in kind of three areas of that career control framework.
I see. And when you implement these, I guess how much time does it take? Is it really busy to insert in to someone's life, or is it just like, simple something simple?
Yeah, I think it really can depend.
Mhm.
Sometimes people come to me and they have a really specific tactical thing that they want to focus on. And so we might just use a few sessions where we go through that.
Mhm.
For the majority of people, when they're coming to me, there's sort of a bigger container that they're looking at. So whether there's a big transition, there's something they want to shift. And so it does take a little while to kind of figure out what the real issue is. So as you know, they come to me with one specific thing, the more we talk, the more we start to really uncover what's going on. And so that does take a little while. But the other thing that takes a little while is that we're going to start to formulate some hypotheses of things that are going to help work better. And we're going to want to start experimenting with those things. There is so much information that we have available to us today about things we could do to make our lives better, but we're not doing it. And
Mhm.
we're not doing it for a couple reasons. One of those is that we're not doing this in kind of this scientific method where we're trying out a thing. We're seeing what works about it for us. Why doesn't this thing that everybody tells us to do, why doesn't it work for us? Is there something we need to adjust on what we're posing? Or is this a habit that maybe it's just something that we haven't practiced and we want to get more experience? And so we really want to take some of these theories and put them into practice to figure out really what's going to be a sustainable system that will work for us.
I like that. First you peel you peel to find the real
Yeah.
issue, like kind of like an onion, and
Yeah.
then you use, like the scientific method, which I mean, it definitely helps having you on board because some people, even if they want to try something, they're not sure exactly what's going to work or how to switch between those things to see what will work, right? There you have it with you, like
Yeah.
saying, here's how long we should stick with this. If we're not seeing changes, then we can, move on. So that's
Yeah,
pretty
I mean,
cool.
we talk about it a little bit like with the framework of exercise. So again, physically, we know what we should be doing, but we're not doing it. So
Mhm.
maybe we hire a personal trainer. It gives us some accountability. So the fact that people decide that they want to work with a coach means that this is a thing that they're prioritizing and they're spending the time, and yes, they're spending the money to say that this is something that I want to spend some time doing. The fact that we spend, 50 minutes together every other week and talk about these things is probably more time than people have ever spent talking about some of the things that they want to fix themselves. And yet they wonder why nothing is changing. So
Mhm.
having a partner not only who has that time, but who again is on your side, but is not necessarily echoing back exactly everything that you would say to yourself, who can ask questions with a different lens, who can challenge you on things, as well as give you some ideas of things that you could practice.
So you launched something called Dana on Demand, which I you mentioned before. It's you have constant email support, I guess, with you, right? I guess tell us more about that. Like what made you decide to build that and how are you implementing inside your broader service mix?
Yeah, thanks so much for asking. So
Mhm.
last year, I started noticing that some of the people that I talked to really needed support, but they were hesitant to sign up for coaching. And so I wanted to probe a little bit more why. I certainly don't think coaching is for everybody at every moment, but if you have an issue that you want to work on and you're not signing up for coaching because it's too expensive, maybe, or for a lot of people, you just feel like you don't have the time. You don't want to, definitely don't want to go to like a group session where you have to be on Zoom at the same time every week. Just didn't fit into a lot of people's schedule. So I did some interviews with people last year and I was talking to them about really what it was they were looking for and what was holding them back from getting help. And what we did was out of that is we crafted Data on Demand. So we came up with something that was asynchronous, which means we never have to be sitting down at the same time. This can work at any time on your schedule. It's also unlimited. So
Mhm.
instead of us sitting down once for a deep session every other week, you can ask me as many questions as you want. We can talk about something big where we go back and forth for a while and we start to, peel back some of those layers over the onion. Or you could just send me a random question that came up that something you're trying to figure out now. And so it gave a lot more flexibility to the model so that people could really use it in a way that, again, was maybe talking about some of these big issues, but also could be really involved in the day to day. So here's what's coming up for me now. Here's what I'm worried about. These are the things that I want to start talking about and feel like they could do it, really just easily. Another part of the membership is I do some audio drops. And so what I do is basically it is me coaching around a topic where I talk for under 10 minutes, but we pull out some of the themes that people are asking for and we go a little bit deeper so that everybody can have that information. So that if one person asks me the question, probably a lot of other people have that same question. And so we're able to go deep on some of those topics. So not only can I respond to some of the themes that are coming up today, but we're building this really deep library of topics that you can plug in on your commute, when you're on your walk, and really listen to in no time. So it's been something that has been really adoptable because of that flexibility. And of course, it is at a slightly lighter price point than the one-on-one coaching.
Absolutely. And how do you deal with that flexibility since I'm sure that since more people can come in, right? I'm sure you
Yeah.
get a ton of emails. How do you deal with all of that?
Yeah. So that has been one of the things. Again, it is not as infinitely flexible because you are still getting personalized quality feedback from me. It is
Mhm.
definitely using my time. So there is a limit to the scale of that for sure. But one of the beauties with this is I am trying to practice many of the techniques that I am suggesting to other people. So I batch those tasks. Yes, I can answer those emails as they come in, but I set aside time blocks on my calendar so that I can go in and I can respond to those in quantity. It also means, I'm taking a vacation later this year and I'm going to be out for a couple weeks and I'm going to be in a different time zone. But it means that I have the flexibility, again, of not being in the same place at the same time and being able to reply to those issues and questions. And so because of that, it's been something that's actually much more scalable than some of the other formats that I've been dealing with people. Again, there will be an end to this where I will hit capacity, and then we're playing around with other ways that we can expand the model that allow for more time and more flexibility within that format.
I see. Well, good luck with that, and I'm glad that it's also helps that you have the library, I guess, to assist you with that.
Exactly.
Since that's another asset, some people can just search it up. Maybe the answer is already in there, right?
Exactly. So again, you can have that format where you get that information. And then if you have, again, we can only go so deep in 10 minutes, but
Mhm.
from there you might be like, okay, here's my one follow-up question. Rather than having to go through the same content each time with each person who asks that question, the library really helps with a lot of that core content, and it's growing every other week.
Good, good. Well, I guess when you look at where coaching is headed, I guess with AI tools or corporate budgets and those kinds
Yeah.
of things, where do you see the biggest opportunity for someone like you, who's been in the trenches, knows what's working, what's something that you're betting on that, some other people in the space might be missing?
Yeah, I think that AI, again, if we're not talking about it, we are ignoring something big that is happening. I think that's one of the things, again, with the coaching and even with Dana on Demand, information is not our problem. So we've always had enough information. And so AI is bringing us that information in a different way. What we're not able to do is figure out why it's not working for us, what the lens we want to be looking at those things through. So I think the need for coaching is still present. The other thing that's happening in organizations right now is because AI is taking over a lot of, honestly, entry-level tasks. So a lot of organizations are really looking at the structure of how they're divvying out the work that needs to happen as AI is coming in as a support. What is not going away is the need for people to work together and the need for people to step into some of those leadership roles. And so now more than ever, they are needing that support. How do we focus on the right strategy? We can't just throw AI at everything. We need to make sure that we're still doing the right things and we have a system for evaluating where we're implementing AI. In organizations, AI implementation is a huge undertaking. And if they're not choosing those items strategically and looking at the implementation, then they're potentially wasting some time and some energy on those resources. So the need for coaching support on strategy, on effective use of time, on workplace dynamics, on leadership is just going to continue to increase, as well as really that customized ability. So, not having something that's boilerplate that's going to work for everybody. We want to have the opportunity to engage with a real human to talk about how this is going to work for us, how this is going to be implemented for us. What is a system that we can sustainably support that's not just yet another system you're throwing at us?
I like that. Yeah, I agree. There's nothing that can replace that human connection and
Yeah.
customization. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, we've got the information. Getting it more effectively is great. But what are we doing with that information and how are we really putting it into place?
Exactly. I guess as we wrap up, what are you most excited about in your business in the coming year? What are you looking
Yeah.
forward to in 2026?
Yeah. So this year in 2026, again, I think the workshop work that I'm doing has been really Again, it's gone through some evolutions. I still do a ton of custom workshops, but having some of those workshops standardized and being able to implement those has been really exciting. So again, the same way that I came up with the career control framework based on the issues that I was seeing people talking about, the workshop structure really follows that. So I love the fact that I've come up with this system that's really scalable. And then for me, the funnest thing is like I came up with Dana on Demand because I was hearing a need that wasn't being filled. I love to go out there. I love to interact with people and engage with people and hear what's really going on. Again, nothing that we do is going to stay static. I think we're going to need to continue to evolve, and I'm really excited to continue that evolution.
Awesome. Yeah, and speaking of workshops, how I guess for the people here, what do you where do you usually host them and like how often?
Yeah. So what it is if an organization has a need,
Mhm.
then what I do is I bring that into them, and I can do that virtually or I can do that on site. If
Oh,
people
okay.
are interested in talking more about either one-on-one coaching or some of the team trainings and workshops that I do, I would love to talk more. So you can find out more information at danazellers.com. I'm pointing at the right place. Danazellers.com has more information and a way to contact me. The other great way to connect with me is on LinkedIn. So I would love to connect and we can talk more about any needs that anybody might have.
Awesome. Well, I'll make sure to post those in the description. That way
Wonderful.
anyone can click them. And yeah, I guess is there anything else you want to bring up before we wrap up?
No, I think that one of the things that I will note is I talked about the fact that there are a lot of coaches out there. I think that this is an industry that is continuing to grow. I don't think the market is getting saturated because I think there's more and more of a need for it. What I do think is that coaching means a lot of different things. And so figuring out, again, what are the issues that you're seeing? What is the solution that you're looking for? And really figuring out who is the best fit to provide that for you. I think there's a lot of resources out there, but making sure that you're doing some of that due diligence to finding the right fit for you is a really important step.
Absolutely. It saves time and money for
Yeah,
sure. And
absolutely.
all right. Well, thank you so much, Dana. Have a great day. All right,
Thanks so much, Anthony. This has been fun.